Hey friends, Ash here with gentsscents. Hope you're doing really well. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about 5 hit fragrances that came out of nowhere. Now when I say that, I don't mean that they just popped into existence. Nobody had any clue that they were going to be released, and then suddenly one day, like magic, they appeared on shelves and everyone went, "What? What is this? I will buy it." That's not what I mean. What I mean is these fragrances were released, and maybe at the time people didn't really expect them to smell how they ultimately smelled, or maybe people weren't expecting them to be such huge hits. So let's go ahead and jump into it, check these fragrances out. Now this first one came out in 2012, and this is, I believe, at the time of this video, the best-selling fragrance from the house. It's Versace Eros. Now I'll explain my reasoning behind each one of these as we go. These are going to be mainly houses that you recognize, or all of them should be really. So Versace Eros, why was this one out of nowhere? Up to this point, Versace was well known for very fresh, easy to wear fragrances like Versace Pour Homme, Versace Man Eau Fraiche, and then also for having unique designer fragrances like Dreamer, for example, or Versace Man, which is now sadly discontinued. That one was great while you could find it for about 30 bucks. Then they also had the 80s classic Versace L'Homme. They had Versace Versus Uomo, which is also discontinued nowadays, and Versace Blue Jeans. I can still remember when this first came out. I bought this 50 ml bottle right here, and I remember getting it in, not exactly knowing how it was going to smell, and then smelling it and going, that is sweet. It's got mint, tonka, vanilla, ambroxan, and green apple, some of the notes in the fragrance. And this is one that I think a lot of guys, other than the pretty slick packaging, didn't think was going to take off the way that it did. Once people got their nose on this, it was game over. Eros became Versace's #1 fragrance. Okay. This next one, I know there are going to be some people who were like, no, that did not come out of nowhere. But you're going to have to hear me out on it a little bit. Creed Aventus came out in 2010. Yes, Creed had tons of fragrances that are considered modern classics by the time this came out. Green Irish Tweed, Silver Mountain Water, Arolfa, Millésime Imperial, on and on. And that's not even taking into account their older fragrances that were vaulted at the time this came out. But Aventus was such a hit, such a freaking nuclear bomb, that it took Creed and just boom, elevated it right to the tippy top of niche fragrances. To this day, 2011, 2010 batches of Creed Aventus command insane markups when they go up for sale. Aventus took Creed to a company that had annual revenue of over $200 million a year. Now obviously it's not just Aventus, it's all the other fragrances too, but this rose the tide and brought up all the other Creed fragrances even more when it dropped. Now obviously nobody could have really seen this coming, in the sense that Creed says, hey, we're coming out with a new fragrance, it's called Aventus, maybe check it out. At the time, there were very few people going, you know what? I bet you that's going to be the fragrance that changes everything and gets knocked off more than every fragrance that's ever existed. But it did. It absolutely did. So Creed's Aventus came out of nowhere in a sort of way. And this next one, I'm tying in with Aventus, Club de Nuit Intense Man from 2015. This is from Armaf, of course, and this is an Aventus clone. Now, this was not the first Aventus clone. There were lots of fragrances before this one that came out and tried to knock off Creed's Aventus at a very affordable price point. And yet, this one is the one that just blew up and is still, to this day, one of the most popular, highest-selling fragrances out there. And there are a lot of people that don't want to hear that. They hate Club de Nuit Intense Man, they hate Armaf, they hate clones, and it just drives them insane that this fragrance sells as well as it does. Now the opening here is harsh. The opening is not as nice as Creed Aventus, and frankly, in my opinion, it's not that close. And you smell them side by side, the opening, not good. But it's all about the dry down with this fragrance, and as it does dry down, it smells a lot nicer, and it is a huge compliment puller with great projection and great longevity. So with Club de Nuit Intense Man, that one kind of came out of nowhere because it hit with such force and everybody just seemed to go, yeah, okay, well, I guess that's the Aventus clone that we're all gonna buy. And it's another one of those things that I don't know that you could have seen coming, you know? You look at this bottle, that's an ugly bottle. I mean, that is an objectively terrible looking bottle. It has this weird fake crystal diamond thing going on in the cap that looks like a dice. And then you've got this little flimsy chain holding a medallion that's glued to the bottle with another crystal, and it's not really all that nice to look at. And yet, when this fragrance hit, and people got their nose on it, they decided, this is it. This is my Aventus clone. This is what I'm rocking. As I said, there were clones before that one. There have been a whole bunch of clones that have come out after that one, and yet, Club de Nuit Intense Man. You say Aventus clone, first fragrance most people think about. All right, next up we got one from Paco Rabanne. 1 million. Yeah, 1 million. What? Yeah, 1 million. This one came out in 2008. Doesn't feel like it's been that long, but it has. So why 1 million? Why'd that catch people by surprise? They did have Black Excess that came out a few years before 1 million, and that fragrance is great for clubbing, and it's really sweet as well. You know, kind of in a similar style of 1 million. They don't smell the same, but a similar style, similar idea. Well, before Black Excess, you had fragrances like Paco, which was really clean and fresh, a little bit similar to Azzaro Chrome or CK1. Then you had Excess, which Creed kind of took and reworked into Himalaya. Well, took and reworked, maybe not that. You could say Creed was inspired by Excess. Inspired. Then you had Paco Rabanne Pour Homme, which is a fantastic barbershop fragrance. Maybe not the first brand you would think of for having a really nice, high-quality barbershop scent, but Paco Rabanne, yeah, they had that. And still have that, actually. You can still find it. So 1 million was kind of a surprise, because they already had their really sweet clubbing type fragrance with Black Excess, and it was pretty popular. It was doing well. And they came out with this really tacky looking gold bar bottle, and then it blew up. So suddenly, Black Excess was no longer Paco Rabanne's favorite sweet clubbing fragrance. Now, they didn't just kill Black Excess. You can still buy it. You can still find it. It's in a new bottle. And they had flankers that came out afterward as well. But pretty quickly, Black Excess went from being, you know, the sweet fragrance of Paco Rabanne, the main one that they were pushing, to just crushed by 1 million. Of course, 1 million has had a bunch of flankers as well, some of them more successful than others. Some of the flankers have been discontinued, but they still continue to this day making new Paco Rabanne 1 million flankers. Now, I was still fairly young when 1 million came out, but I can still remember when that did hit. And it was one of those fragrances that once it started to spread, it seemed like everybody was buying it. And that still continues on to this day. People buy it, wear it like crazy. And when that was released, it was not expected that that would be just everywhere. Not like it is now. Let's go from one clubbing type fragrance to another. Ultramall from Jean-Paul Gaultier. This came out in 2015. Now, if you were into fragrances when this came out, you know that this caught a bunch of hype really quickly, and people were buying this up like crazy because it's a big compliment pulling fragrance, great for evening wear, great to the club, and assuming you don't spray it on too heavily, you can wear this casually or even to the office. It's one of those fragrances that people just love. They gravitate toward this stuff. My wife loves this scent. So why was this one kind of a surprise hit? Well, all you have to do really is look at Jean-Paul Gaultier and most of the releases that they have coming out year over year. Now, I don't say this to be mean toward the house or anything like that, but most of the Le Male flankers are summer releases that people frankly don't care about. They come out, the fans of the house buy them, they spray them on, and they go, oh yeah, it's wearable. Wear it for one summer and put it back, never think of it again. Then you had other flankers that came out before this one, like Le Beau Male or Fleur du Mal, which didn't really take off, you could say. That's a nice way to put it. They didn't really take off. And they even tried to come out with a new fragrance line, Cocorico and Cocorico by Night, which bombed horrifically. Yeah, those didn't do so well. Not at all. So they had come out with all these flankers and even this new line that nobody cared about. And it was getting to the point that when Jean Paul Gaultier came out with a new fragrance, people just didn't really seem to care until this hit and the hype train took off. And at that point it was like, oh, I guess Jean Paul Gaultier's back. And then right after this one, I think is when they came out with Le Male Eau Fraiche, which was also really well received. So this one helped this house take right back off and put it to the forefront of people's minds again. All right, last one, Mustache Eau de Parfum, came out in 2018. Man, I love this bottle. This bottle is just freaking awesome. Love the way it feels in my hand. Really heavy, classy look. Top-notch stuff. Now this smells really similar to Yves Saint Laurent Tuxedo, only especially from discounters, this is way more affordable. Not in the same universe in terms of price, but the quality here, really high. This stuff is one of the better buys you will ever get in the $30-ish range at discounters, which is also why it sells out all the time. So why did this one come out of nowhere? Why was it a surprise? Because the house is really well known for Rochas Man, which came out in 1999, so a little while ago. And then Eau de Rochas, which came out in 1993. That's pretty much it. Those are the fragrances that the house at this point is known for, or at the point that this fragrance came out. Now they do have older fragrances from the 40s, the 60s, you know, they've got a good history, but those fragrances are really only known to, we'll call them fragrance aficionados. Your average run-of-the-mill guy actually might not even know about the two fragrances that I brought up, which are the most well-known ones, at least before this came out. It's not exactly a powerhouse fragrance house nowadays, you could say. And so when this came out and people realized how freaking good it was and also how affordable from discounters that it was, ooh, wow, where'd that come from? And frankly, the Eau de Toilette, Mustache Eau de Toilette, the re-release, that stuff is really good too. It's completely different than this, but it's also great. So that fragrance, Mustache Eau de Parfum, that was a great surprise. Have that come out kind of out of left field and have it be a more affordable version of a highly sought after fragrance that quality wise is pretty freaking close to that more expensive fragrance. Yeah, sign me up for that. So Mustache Eau de Parfum, fragrance hit? Yes. Came out of nowhere? Absolutely. So there we go, guys. 6 technically different fragrances that came out of nowhere to be hits. The fragrance houses themselves are all pretty well known, but when the fragrances hit, when they hit the market, what happened is not what most people expected to happen. All right, guys, it's gonna do it for me. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks for all your support. Stay safe out there. I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.